Hello friends, welcome to Hot Tales, where we dive into tales of love, betrayal, revenge, and wisdom. Kindly support this channel by subscribing, liking the story and sharing it with your friends and loved one. Thank you in advance as you do so. Love you. Emma stared at the living room wall, a metal scraper in her hand, bits of sunflower wallpaper falling like yellow snow. She had just finished peeling a long strip when her phone buzzed on the floor beside her. Who now? She muttered, wiping sweat from her brow. It was her mom. She picked up. Hey, Mom. Her mother's voice came through with too much sweetness. That tone always meant trouble. Hi honey. Listen, I need you to come by next Saturday. We're having a little family meeting. Emma raised an eyebrow. A meeting? About what? Oh, it's a surprise. Her mom chirped. Just be here by 4, and don't forget that chocolate cake from Sweet Juniper, okay? Emma sighed. Seriously, what's going on? Her mom laughed lightly. It's just a gathering. Mark and Lucy will be there. Your aunts, cousins, everyone. Emma's stomach dropped. A family gathering, with Mark involved was never simple. I'll think about it, she said flatly. Be here, Emma. Please, her mom added, then hung up. Emma dropped the phone and looked around her messy, half-renovated living room. She had just become a homeowner 2 weeks ago. For the first time in her 35 years, something finally felt like hers. After her great-aunt Ruth passed away, she left Emma a small inheritance, just enough to boost her $300,000 savings and buy a small 2-bedroom house in East Sacramento. No mortgage, no rent, no shared walls or noisy roommates. Just her, the creaky floors, and an ugly 1980s wallpaper. She earned this. 10 years of working 60-hour weeks at a marketing firm. 10 years of skipping vacations, making her own coffee, budgeting every dollar. While others showed off Coachella tickets and luxury bags, Emma was quietly building her future. Saturday came too quickly. Emma pulled up to her parents' house, chocolate cake in hand and suspicion in her heart. Inside, laughter and voices filled the living room. Mark, her younger brother, grinned when he saw her. Hey, homeowner, he said, giving her a half-hearted hug. His fiancée, Lucy, waved politely. Emma forced a smile. Hey, Mark. She turned to her mom. All right, what's this about? Her mother clapped her hands. Okay, everyone, let's sit. Everyone settled around the dining table. Emma's dad cleared his throat. Well, he said, we wanted to share something special. Mark and Lucy are getting married next spring. And, we'd like to give them a gift. Emma tensed. Her mom took over, eyes glittering. We've decided to give them the Sacramento house. The one you just bought, Emma. Silence. Emma blinked. What? Her dad nodded as if it were normal. It just makes sense. It's close to Lucy's job, and they're planning to start a family. Emma's voice came out cold. That's my house. I bought it. With my money. Her mom waved a hand. Yes, sweetie, but without Ruth's inheritance, you couldn't have done it so soon. And you're single, you don't need all that space. Emma stared at her parents, heart pounding. So I work for 10 years, build every dollar I have, and you think I should just hand over my home because Mark's getting married? Mark shifted uncomfortably. Come on, Emma, it's not like that. We'd take care of it. You mean live in it while I, what? Move out, rent again, after I paid in full. Lucy looked like she wanted to disappear. Emma stood up. No. Absolutely not. I gave up too much to earn that house. I'm not giving it up for a wedding gift. Her mother frowned. We just thought. You never thought, Emma snapped. Not when I was tutoring on weekends to afford school. Not when I worked nights. But Mark drops out of college and suddenly he needs a house. The room went quiet. Emma grabbed her keys and turned to leave. Enjoy the cake, she said. That's the only thing I'm giving today. Back at her bungalow, Emma sat on the floor surrounded by peeling wallpaper. She looked around at her imperfect, beautiful space. She whispered to herself, no one's taking this from me. For once, she wasn't the quiet one. She wasn't the one sacrificing without a word. She had a voice now, and a home that belonged to her. Emma couldn't move. The words just hung there in the air like smoke. You should give your house to them. She looked around the table, hoping someone, anyone, would laugh and say, kidding. But no one did. Mark looked awkward, suddenly very interested in his carrots. Lucy gave a small, apologetic smile and stared at her napkin. Her dad cleared his throat. Her mom just kept smiling, like what she'd said was the most normal thing in the world. Emma finally spoke. "You're not serious." Her mom touched her hand gently. "Emma, sweetheart, Mark and Lucy are starting a life together. A child needs space, a yard, a good school district. That little bungalow is perfect." Emma pulled her hand back. "That little bungalow took me 10 years to earn. 10 years of living like a ghost while everyone else had fun. I skipped everything, vacations, holidays, even heat in the winter, just so I could buy that house outright. It's not some toy I got in a giveaway." Her father finally looked up. "We're not saying you did nothing. But Mark and Lucy have a family coming. You're alone. You can start over." Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You mean go backwards? You mean sell the one stable thing I've ever had, and just what? Watch Mark play dad in my kitchen?" Mark finally looked at her. "Emma, come on. It's not like we're stealing it. Mom and Dad are offering to help you find another place. You could even stay with them for a while." Emma laughed, sharp and bitter. "You want me to move back here so you can raise your baby in my home?" "Unbelievable." Lucy spoke up quietly. "Emma, I'm sorry. We didn't ask for this. Your mom and dad offered it as an idea. We thought, maybe we could all talk about it." Emma stood up. "No, we're not going to talk about this. Because there's nothing to talk about. That house is mine, not theirs, not yours, mine. And I'm not giving it away because I don't fit your definition of what a woman should be by 35. The room was frozen. Her mom blinked. "We just thought maybe, since you're not using it to its full potential." Emma grabbed her purse. "I've never been used to my full potential. And definitely not in this family." She walked out. That night, Emma sat on the floor of her living room, hands resting on her knees, staring at the blank white walls she had primed just days ago. They still smelled like fresh paint and possibility. She wasn't crying. She had cried enough over the years. The silence in the room felt better than applause. Better than forced smiles and fake family gatherings. She looked around and whispered to herself, "They can take their parties and their plans. But they can't take this." Then she got up, grabbed a paintbrush, and dipped it into a soft sage green. If they weren't going to see her, she'd paint herself into every inch of these walls. "You don't need all that space," Mom said, waving her hand like she was talking about a box of junk in the attic. "You can go back to renting." Renting. Like the 10 years I spent crawling my way to homeownership meant nothing. Like I hadn't worked weekends, skipped meals, and lived in a freezing apartment just to save every dollar. And then she had the nerve to smile. But that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part came when everyone else joined in. "That's such a thoughtful idea," Aunt Lisa chirped from across the table. "Family should look out for each other." "Absolutely," Uncle Ray nodded. "Emma, you'd be doing a beautiful thing." I stared at them. "This isn't a conversation. It's an ambush." Dad's face tightened. "Emma, don't be dramatic." "I'm not," I said, voice low. "You're asking me to give up my house, my dream for Mark and Lucy." Mark finally looked at me. "I mean you don't have to, but it would mean a lot." Lucy, his fiancée, touched her belly gently. She gave a little sniffle. "It's not just for us. It's for the baby." The room buzzed with soft murmurs. Kind smiles. Murky eyes. I pushed back my chair. It scraped loudly across the floor. "So that's it. Because I'm 35 and single, I'm supposed to just hand over everything I've worked for." "You're being selfish," Dad said coldly. "Think about your brother for once." I laughed bitterly. "Selfish. I paid for that house by myself. With no help. While Mark got bailed out every time he messed up." Mom's tone turned sharp. "Don't make this ugly, Emma. You've always been difficult. Always thinking only of yourself." I looked right at Mark. Why doesn't he work for a house like I did? Why doesn't he sacrifice like I had to? Mark's eyes narrowed. Lucy sniffled louder, her fingers clutching her belly like I'd just attacked the baby itself. Then Mom stood. She picked up the cake. The chocolate cake I brought. The one she had once called her favorite. And threw it, right at me. It hit me square in the chest, the buttercream frosting exploding across my sweater and smearing down my jeans. Gasps. Then silence. Everyone froze. No one moved. No one said a word. They just sat there, satisfied, like I deserved it. I wiped frosting from my eyes with the back of my hand, turned without another word, and walked out the door. Behind me, the shouting began. "She's no daughter of mine. Ungrateful cow." I slammed the door behind me. I couldn't even remember the drive home. My hands shook so hard, I had to try 3 times just to get the key in the ignition. When I finally made it, I collapsed onto my old thrift store couch, still wearing the frosting-stained clothes. I didn't cry. I just sat there, my hands clenched in my lap, staring at nothing. It wasn't sadness. It was something deeper, something colder. My phone buzzed and buzzed. "Mom, Dad, Mark, you're overreacting. Just give them the house. You've always been so selfish. Mark's having a baby and you're standing in the way." I stared at the screen until it blurred, then threw the phone across the room. It clattered against the floor and slid under a chair. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and whispered into the quiet, "They've never seen me." Not once. I remembered being 9. Mark got brand new Nike shoes for Christmas. I got clearance sneakers with a hole in the sole. Mom said they'd do for now. Mark was the golden boy. I was the leftover. I've spent my life proving I'm not invisible. And now they wanted the one thing that finally proved I mattered. No, not this time. I used to think silence meant peace. But that night, alone on my couch, silence was just another kind of screaming. All those years of being the quiet one, the helpful one, the one who gave space, made room, bit her tongue. Now, they were trying to make me feel guilty for owning the house I built with my own sweat. And then came the worst punch. A Facebook notification. I tapped it open without thinking. Sometimes your own child breaks your heart. That was Mom's post. It wasn't subtle. It was loud and public. Emma refused to help her pregnant brother when he needed her most. I sat there frozen. Then the comments started rolling in like a storm. I was there. Emma was ice cold, keeping a whole house to herself. Wow, family means sacrifice. Some people just don't get it. And then, Mom, liking every single one, even replying, "We raised her better than this." They didn't post about the cake in my face, or the pressure at the table, or how I was the only one at that dinner who had worked for what she had. Not a single word about that. And still, I didn't cry. I smiled, because I finally saw it for what it was. They were counting on me to stay silent. But they forgot something very important. I owned half of Grandma's house. Legally, they were just living there because Mark and I let them. Rent-free, out of kindness. I marched to my filing cabinet, yanked open the drawer, and pulled out the yellowing manila folder. Grandma's will was still there, still crystal clear. 50% for Mark, 50% for me. I picked up my phone and typed into Google, "Real estate attorney near East Sacramento." The first result, Blackwell Law Office. I tapped call. "Blackwell Law, this is Jenna," a calm voice answered. "I need to speak with someone about a property matter," I said, my voice even. 2 hours later, I sat across from Jeremy Blackwell, a clean-cut man in his 40s with sharp eyes and a quiet confidence. I laid it all out. The will, the apartment I worked years for, the family ambush, the cake, the Facebook post. He listened without interruption. "So," he said, finally speaking, "you and your brother inherited the house equally. You let your parents stay without rent. Now they've tried to pressure you to hand over your separate home, and you want to know your legal options." "Yes," I said. "I'm not looking for revenge. I just want clarity and boundaries." Jeremy nodded. "You can force a sale or demand that your brother buy your half at market value. Your parents have no legal claim to the house. What's the first step?" I asked. "I'll draft the notice today," he said. "Do it," I replied without hesitation. I buried myself in the house. I painted all the baseboards, ripped up the old carpet in the living room, replaced the cabinet handles with ones I found on sale at the hardware store. My hands hurt, but my heart felt calmer with every brush stroke, every nail hammered in. The work was my therapy. On the 5th day, the doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole. It was them. Mom, Dad, Mark, Lucy. I didn't move. Lucy was holding her belly like she thought that would make me open the door faster. I stood there behind the door, watching them shift uncomfortably. Dad knocked again, a little harder this time. Mark looked annoyed. Mom muttered something to Lucy and crossed her arms. I didn't open it. Let them wait. Let them wonder. I didn't move an inch. I stood just inside my apartment door, heart pounding, phone in hand, recording. Emma, we know you're in there. Mom's voice cut through the door like a blade. I'm not going anywhere until you explain this ridiculous letter. Dad shouted, voice heavy with anger. They were talking about the legal notice Jeremy had sent, the one telling them their free stay was over. I pressed record on my phone. You ungrateful brat, Mom screamed. After everything we've done for you. Still, I didn't move. You're seriously kicking your pregnant brother out. Lucy's voice whined. This is low, even for you. Mark chimed in, loud and sharp. You're disgusting, Emma. Family doesn't do this to each other. I stood still, phone recording, not saying a single word. Not yelling back, just listening. 15 minutes of guilt-tripping, shouting, and twisted blame. Then, silence. I took a shaky breath, saved the recording, and forwarded it to Jeremy with a short message. This happened today. He called me almost immediately. This is harassment, Jeremy said. If it continues, we can request a restraining order. Honestly, this just strengthens your legal position. 1 week later, Jeremy called again. Their lawyer reached out. They want to mediate. I agreed, but only on my terms. The mediation was scheduled for a Monday morning at Jeremy's office. I arrived early, wearing my navy blue pantsuit, the one I used to save for big presentations back when I cared about being seen. Jeremy greeted me with a nod. You're completely within your rights. Don't let them shake you. I nodded silently, then they walked in. Mom, Dad, Mark, and Lucy, all behind their lawyer. Mom glanced at me with a mixture of hurt and fury. Traitor, she muttered under her breath. The mediator started summarizing the facts, but their lawyer jumped in, saying that selling the house would be cruel and disruptive. Jeremy slid over a printed copy of Mom's Facebook post and played the audio I'd recorded. No one said a word for a long time after that. 2 hours passed. Then both lawyers came back into the room with a proposal. Sell the house. Split the proceeds 50-50. Just like Grandma's will said. Mom broke down. Emma, please, she cried, wiping her eyes. We're your family. I'm sorry about the cake. I lost my temper. I looked at her, really looked at her. And all I could think about was that day at the table. The shouting, the cake in my face. The Facebook post, the way she liked every comment that dragged me through the mud. So I said it, calm and clear. The house will be sold. That's final. Jeremy began drafting the agreement while they all sat stiff and furious across the table. But I felt nothing. 2 months later, the house sold fast. It was a hot market. After fees and taxes, Mark and I each got $175,000. We never spoke again. Everything went through the lawyers. Jeremy called me one last time. Your parents are moving in with Mark and Lucy, he said. They got a mortgage to cover the rest. Mark used his share as the down payment. I leaned back in my chair, letting that sink in. I had, in a way, made my parents leave the home they'd lived in rent-free for years. A small part of me felt guilty. But then I remembered the cake. The shouting at the door. That Facebook post. They made their choices, I said. And what about you? Jeremy asked gently. Any plans for your share? I'm working with a financial advisor, I said. Stocks, bonds, rights. He smiled. Smart. Well, unless there's more, our work here is done. We shook hands. Thanks, I said. Thanks for helping me stand up for myself. Back at my apartment, I walked into my place. Hardwood floors gleamed. The kitchen sparkled. Soft light poured through the clean windows. It smelled like lavender and freedom. Then my phone rang. Rachel from work. Emma, how are you holding up? She asked. I smiled. I'm okay, actually. The sale's final. The money's in the bank. And your family? Still messy, I said. But, I'm not. Not anymore. I knew I wouldn't be invited to Mark and Lucy's wedding. They'd made that clear the day I walked away. I was just pouring myself a cup of coffee when my phone rang. It was Rachel again, my friend from work. Hey, she said gently. Mark and Lucy got married last weekend. I wasn't surprised. They didn't even invite you. She asked softly. Nope, I said, sitting on the edge of my bed. And they're expecting a baby now. Rachel paused. Are you okay with not meeting your nephew? I gave a small laugh, sad, but honest. He's going to grow up thinking I'm the villain, I said. And honestly, maybe they never saw me as family. Just someone useful. Rachel didn't argue. She didn't have to. She knew the truth. Later that evening, I stepped out onto my small balcony. The Sacramento sky was painted in shades of warm orange and soft pink. The air was quiet, still. Just me and the hum of distant traffic. 6 months ago, the thought of losing my whole family would have crushed me. Now, I felt peace. Then my phone pinged. A text from a mutual friend. Lucy had the baby. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Everyone's healthy. I stared at it. No anger. No sadness. No tears. Just silence. Like hearing a weather report from a town I'd never been to. They were all under one roof now. Mark, Lucy, the baby, and my parents, still in that house, a house paid for with Mark's half of Grandma's will, a house with a mortgage that would probably follow them into retirement. And me, I didn't feel bad for them. Not anymore. Because I finally saw it clearly, I was never the daughter. Never the sister. Never the aunt. I was the backup plan. The resource. The wallet. Back inside, my apartment felt like a warm exhale. Some people might call it lonely. I call it freedom. There's a single box on my bookshelf. Inside, just photos of Grandma and me. Smiling, laughing, gardening, Christmas mornings. She saw us equally. She tried to make things fair. And for the first time in my life, I knew what it felt like to stop burning for people who would never warm their hands at my fire, only take the flame. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for saying no. If you've been expected to give everything and ask for nothing, tell me your story in the comments. I finally stood up for myself. And I'm proud. Subscribe if you believe that setting boundaries isn't selfish. Let's support each other. Let's remind the world that quiet strength is strength just the same. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. You are not alone.